Put your signature here, Claire, and I'll finally be rid of you for good, sneered Matthew, my husband of 8 years, sliding the divorce papers across the glossy oak desk. Standing smugly beside him was Logan, once my most trusted comrade and now his secret lover, fingers laced with his as though flaunting their betrayal. Their laughter rang out, sharp, mocking, cutting through the lawyer's office like shrapnel on a battlefield. At last, free from this burden, Logan muttered loud enough for me to catch. Now we can start the life we actually deserve. Matthew's eyes glittered with malice as he smirked. 8 years wasted. At least I'll walk away with half of whatever scraps you've managed to hold on to. Not that it's much, since you never brought home a steady paycheck. I held my expression as steady as I had on deployments, lifting the pen without a word. His lawyer, a thick-set man named Carmichael, looked at me with open disdain. My name is Claire. I'm 35 years old, a decorated veteran who once led soldiers through fire. But in that office I was treated as nothing more than a failure. 2 years out of uniform, staying in the house that belonged to Matthew's parents, driving an old Jeep that Logan loved to ridicule, wearing thrift store jackets Matthew claimed made me look pathetic. When I finished signing, Matthew snatched the papers out of my hands like a prize. All that's left is for the judge to stamp it, he said coldly. I can't wait to collect my share of her so-called assets. He even crooked his fingers in the air when he said assets, which set both men laughing again. Carmichael stacked the documents briskly. Hearing's on the docket for next Tuesday. It's a formality considering you've both agreed to the terms. I rose, straightened the faded blazer Matthew always mocked, and headed for the door. I felt their eyes drilling into my back, savoring my supposed defeat. Claire, Matthew called just before I left. When the judge asks about your property, at least try to sound like you own something. Don't embarrass yourself admitting you have nothing. Logan chuckled. Maybe she can list those dusty medals and old field manuals she keeps in a trunk. My hand tightened on the doorknob. For an instant I wanted to turn, to unleash the fury I'd trained my whole life to control. Instead I let a faint smile slip across my face, just enough for me to feel, not for them to understand. Because what they didn't know was that next Tuesday the battlefield would shift. And their laughter would choke in their throats. I had spent 2 years deliberately wearing the mask of failure, every setback choreographed with military precision. If you're drawn in by this story of betrayal and strategy, don't forget to subscribe, because when that gavel falls next Tuesday, Matthew will learn that underestimating a soldier is the deadliest mistake he's ever made. The day of the hearing dawned under a light drizzle, gray skies echoing the mood I pretended to carry. I pulled up to the courthouse in my battered 2002 Jeep, the one Logan always called a relic. I wore the only suit Matthew ever bought me, discount rack 3 years old, which he never failed to remind me about. Moments later, Matthew and Logan rolled in with a gleaming silver Mercedes. Matthew's tailored navy suit hugged his frame, a flashy gold watch glinting on his wrist. Logan strutted beside him like a man already victorious. Well, well, Logan said loudly, the great Claire. At least she's punctual. Some habits die hard. Matthew laughed, that same crisp laugh that once charmed me and now sliced like a knife. Don't tease her, Logan. Today's the day she finally loses the last shred of worth she's clinging to. Half of our wealth, though to be fair it isn't much. What they didn't know was that I carried a recording device tucked into the lining of my jacket, quietly capturing every cruel remark, every calculated jab, every sneer meant to break me. Carmichael shuffled his mountain of papers, grinning like he was already celebrating the win. Miss Claire, he boomed, I trust you've prepared a list of your assets? Though from the looks of it, I doubt it took you long. His confidence was built on smoke because for 2 years, ever since I uncovered the messages between Matthew and Logan, I had been running a campaign of misdirection. Every failed job, every staged blunder, every accident that painted me as incapable. Each one a tactical maneuver. Logan, Matthew chuckled to Carmichael, remember when she tried selling real estate? She lost clients faster than she found them. Her boss told me he'd never seen someone so hopeless at closing a deal. Logan roared, slapping the desk. And when she drove for that rideshare app, she wrecked her car in the first week, right in her own driveway. Their laughter filled the courtroom waiting area, drawing uneasy looks from the other couples nearby. None of them knew the truth, that every mishap had been engineered as carefully as any battlefield operation. Matthew, I said evenly, just loud enough for him to turn. His brows arched, annoyed at being interrupted. Could we speak privately? Logan immediately shifted in front of him like a shield. Whatever you've got to say it here. We're together now. Together. The word landed like shrapnel. 2 years ago, discovering their messages had nearly destroyed me. Not only the affair but the scheme outlined in their texts, to strip me of everything financially and emotionally before discarding me. No need for whispers, Claire, Matthew said, his voice dripping superiority. After today we'll never have anything private again. Logan is my future. You're just my baggage. The room buzzed as clerks and couples filled the benches. Then the clerk called out, "The judge is ready." Judge Keaton was a woman in her 60s, known for being sharp and unyielding. Her steel-gray bun and piercing gaze reminded me of officers I once saluted. "Good morning," she said, voice firm. "We are here to finalize the divorce of Matthew Daniel Cross and Claire Elizabeth Cross. Both parties have submitted an agreement to divide property equally." Carmichael jumped up. "Yes, Your Honor." "And Miss Cross, do you confirm?" I rose slowly. "Yes, Your Honor." Matthew and Logan exchanged smirks, Logan whispering something that made Matthew snicker. "Excellent," Judge Keaton said. "Then we'll review the asset inventory. Miss Cross, please present your statement." I pulled out a scuffed leather briefcase Matthew had mocked countless times. "Looks like military surplus," he used to joke. Inside was a sealed envelope. I handed it to the clerk. Matthew examined his fingernails with feigned boredom. Logan scrolled his phone. Carmichael scribbled numbers as though already tallying fees. Judge Keaton's eyes moved across the pages. Her brows lifted, then narrowed. Then she stopped and peered over her glasses straight at me. "Miss Cross," she said slowly, "I need you to confirm this information." Matthew's grin faltered. Logan froze. Carmichael stopped writing. "Yes, Your Honor," I answered calmly. "Everything is accurate and documented." The judge began to read aloud. Asset Disclosure Statement of Claire Elizabeth Cross. Item 1, ownership of 82% of Sentinel Strategies, valued at, she hesitated, eyes flicking back to the page, $45 million. Matthew shot up from his chair. That's impossible. That's wrong. That has to be wrong, Matthew blurted, his voice cracking as he tried to rise from his seat. "Sit down," Judge Keaton ordered, her tone sharp enough to silence him instantly. Item 2, real estate holdings. Primary residence in San Diego, appraised at $8.5 million. Loft in Manhattan, $3.1 million. Mountain property in Aspen, $2.9 million. Logan's complexion drained until he looked like a ghost. Matthew gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned white. "That can't be true," he muttered, but everyone heard him. "She lives in my parents' house. She drives that beat-up Jeep. She hasn't worked in years." Carmichael pushed his chair back, already scrambling. "Your Honor, this must be an error in the records." But the judge cut him off with the next line. Item 3. Bank accounts and investments. Primary account $20 million. Managed portfolio $28 million. Cryptocurrency holdings $12 million. Matthew's whole body began to tremble. Logan stared at me as though I were some phantom that had materialized in uniform. "Claire." Matthew's voice pitched high, desperate. "What is this? Where did those numbers come from? You don't own anything. You're worthless." I rose slowly, meeting his eyes with the same unflinching calm I'd once shown in combat. "Actually, Matthew, I have far more than you'll ever comprehend. The only difference is I've always known exactly who you are." I pulled my phone from my jacket and pressed play. The courtroom filled with Matthew's own voice. "Logan, do you see how easy it is to manipulate her? He still thinks I love her. Once the divorce is done, I'll take half and we'll be set." Logan's laugh followed. "She's so blind. She'll never know we've been setting her up for years." Matthew's face turned crimson. "Where did you get that? You were spying on us." Item 4, Judge Keaton pressed on, ignoring the commotion. "Vehicles. McLaren 720S $300,000. Tesla Model S Plaid $150,000. Sunseeker Yacht $2.3 million. Logan finally managed. "Claire, I don't get it. You were living in a basement. You got fired from that insurance job." "I never worked in insurance," I said flatly. That office was a front while I ran my company remotely. Sentinel Strategies contracts with Fortune 500s. Every so-called failure you mocked was part of the disguise. Matthew's breathing turned shallow. The cars, where are they? Private garage in Beverly Hills, I replied. The Jeep? Rented. Same as the thrift store clothes and the missed opportunities. Carmichael flailed for control. Your Honor, we request an immediate recess. This looks fraudulent. There's no fraud, I interrupted, handing the clerk another envelope. Just 2 years of airtight investigation. Audio, photos, bank trails, all by a licensed PI. Matthew's eyes brimmed with tears of rage. You tricked us. You pretended to be nothing, lied about everything. Even about loving me. My voice stayed even steady. You schemed to rob me. I safeguarded what was mine. Logan tried the old friend card. Claire, we've known each other since the academy. You hated me that much. Judge Keaton broke in, eyes narrowed but intrigued. Item 5. Subsidiaries and holdings. 20% of Titan Aerotech, valued at $15 million. 35% of Vanguard Incubator, $8.9 million. Matthew gasped, clutching at the table. Half of that is mine. We've been married 8 years. The law says I'm entitled to half. For the first time that morning I smiled. No, Matthew. You're entitled to nothing. Carmichael jumped up, voice cracking. This can't stand. Community property laws. Item 6. The judge continued, curiosity sharp in her voice. Prenuptial agreement and supporting documentation. I handed her another sealed envelope. Signed 3 days before our wedding. It states that proven infidelity voids any claim to my past or future assets. The room went silent. Matthew's eyes went wide. That's a lie. I never signed. Another recording played from my phone. His younger voice filled the courtroom. Of course I'll sign, Claire. I trust you. I'd never betray you. Logan turned pale. Matt, you told me there was no prenup. I forgot. It was years ago. How was I supposed to remember? Judge Keaton reviewed each notarized page. Signatures acknowledged. This agreement is binding. Mr. Carmichael? Carmichael stammered. Your Honor, we request a delay to examine. No delays, she said firmly. The contract is valid. And with evidence of adultery it holds. She looked at me. I assume there's more? I slid forward another envelope. Inside, 2 years of surveillance. Photographs, text logs, hotel receipts, credit card charges. A dossier of betrayal. Logan muttered, "By God," as the judge flipped through. Matthew whispered, horrified, "You tracked us?" "For 2 years. I hired professionals," I said. "And they were thorough." The judge shut the folder with a decisive snap. Adultery is proven. The prenup is enforceable. Matthew exploded, his voice breaking. This isn't fair. You deceived me, you lived a lie. I pretended to be weak to protect what was mine, I answered coldly. You pretended to love me while plotting my ruin. Tell me, which deception cuts deeper? Logan leaned forward desperately. Claire, let's just talk this through. We don't need to end like this. Oh, we'll end it, I said, the steel finally breaking into my voice. But not the way you want. I handed the judge a 5th envelope. Both men stiffened as if sensing a trap. Judge Keaton opened it, brows lifting. Ms. Cross, this is a civil suit? Emotional distress. Conspiracy to commit marital fraud. Matthew and Logan paled in unison. Yes, Your Honor. My legal team has filed comprehensive charges against both of them. Carmichael bolted up. This is outrageous. There's no legal basis. Conspiracy. Defamation. Sabotage of professional contracts. Misappropriation of joint funds to bankroll an affair, I listed calmly. The judge's eyes darkened as she scanned the paperwork. Damages sought, $50 million. Matthew's voice broke in panic. $50 million? You've lost your mind. We don't even have a fraction of that. That's exactly it, I said. You have nothing. Logan's consultancy is a shell. The only money you've touched in 2 years was siphoned by Matthew out of our joint account to fund your affairs. Logan's face went ashen. How did you figure it out? 18 months ago. The same time I uncovered Matthew raiding the so-called emergency fund for hotels and dinners with you. Matthew sobbed now, not from grief but desperation. The judge turned another page. And here, a criminal referral request? Embezzlement. ChatGPT said. That's correct, I said firmly. 23,000 siphoned over 2 years. Every dollar traced. Every false excuse captured on tape. Logan shot up furious. Claire, you're destroying our lives over a divorce. People split up every day, why take it this far? It wasn't the divorce, I answered, my voice sharp with the discipline of a commander. It was the way you schemed to humiliate me, strip me bare and laugh while you did it. I pressed play on another recording. Logan's voice filled the courtroom. She's clueless. We're draining her dry, and once we vanish to Miami, she'll never know what hit her. Then Matthew's mocking laughter followed. 8 years tied to a fool. Finally, I'll live the life I deserve. The silence that followed was heavier than gunfire. I spoke again, voice carrying the weight of 2 calculated years. You wanted me broken. Instead, I let you think you'd won. Every mistake, every loss, every stumble was a deliberate maneuver to give you false confidence. Matthew collapsed into tears. Claire, please, we can talk this out. I was wrong, but you don't need to do this. You don't deserve to suffer like I did. My composure cracked into steel. You planned to rob me, parade my humiliation and laugh about it. Tell me, what exactly don't I deserve? Logan tried to pivot. Think about Matthew. You've had good years. It doesn't have to end like this. The good years were a mirage, I said coldly. I know because I've got your conversations logged since year 3. You've been together 5 years. 5 years plotting my downfall. Judge Keaton gathered the stacks of evidence with crisp precision. With all that has been presented, the divorce is granted under the prenuptial terms. Furthermore, I authorize the civil case to advance. Carmichael rose, frantic. Your Honor, surely some compassion is warranted. My client is clearly in no state of mind. Your client was of sound mind when he spent years engineering this fraud. Judge Keaton cut in. Request denied. Court adjourned. As the room emptied, Matthew clutched my arm. His eyes, once the same ones I had loved, now brimmed with despair. Claire, what do you want? Money? We don't have 50 million. I stared into him with all the calm I'd once carried into combat. I want you to feel what you tried to make me feel. Broken, humiliated, abandoned. Logan tried his last card. Claire, come on, we've been through so much together. That has to mean something. It did, I said evenly. Until you chose betrayal over loyalty. I turned toward the exit. Behind me, Matthew shouted, You can't do this. We'll fight you. I paused at the door, not with cruelty, but with the quiet smile of someone who had already won. Try. Just like the past 2 years, you still don't know half of what's coming. If this twist has you hooked, subscribe now. Because what Matthew and Logan didn't realize was that this courtroom battle was only the opening move. The real mission was just beginning. 3 days later, I wasn't in a dingy basement. I was in my true office. An entire floor in downtown Los Angeles, overlooking the skyline. 40 staff worked outside my door. Inside the conference room, I prepared for a different kind of confrontation. Matthew and Logan arrived with a new attorney, Harrison, the kind who billed more in an hour than they could scrape together in a month. Claire, Matthew began, trying to summon authority he no longer possessed. Let's be rational. 50 million is outrageous. Logan shifted in his chair, sweat staining his designer suit. You won. You proved your point. Let's just move forward. I tapped the tablet on the conference table. You're right, 50 million is excessive. Because I've uncovered far more since Tuesday. Their shoulders eased briefly, until the screen lit up with a slide. Operation Leech. A complete case file. Matthew paled. What is this? Matthew, I asked, remember your sister Amanda? She works in the FBI Financial Crimes Division. When I sent her the evidence, she found something enlightening. Logan's face went gray. What are you saying? I'm not implying, I corrected. I'm stating facts. Your consulting shell was a laundering front. 3 dummy firms, millions in fake contracts. Harrison tried to interject. Ms. Cross, unless you can produce proof. I slid a flash drive across the table. 17 gigabytes. Transfers, emails, offshore accounts. All catalogued. The next slide appeared, Federal Fraud and Tax Evasion Scheme. Logan, I said, you thought Matthew signing the forms gave you cover. You never imagined I'd have every document, every voice memo, every signature. Matthew jerked upright, horrified. Tax fraud? Logan, what is she talking about? Logan stammered. It's not like that. The room shook with another recording. Logan's voice confessing, Claire's perfect. As his wife, she can sign the papers without suspicion. Once she's out, we control it all. Matthew reeled back, betrayed. You dragged me into federal crimes? You said it was just consulting. Matthew's voice cracked into a shout. You lied to me. I advanced the slide. Your signatures, Matthew, are on 5 companies tied to $8.3 million in federal theft. Harrison scribbled furiously. Miss Cross, I assume this is being recorded? Every second, I said with a thin smile. Including Logan coaching Matthew on how to use my staged failures as cover. Logan's mask cracked. You set us up. You knew all along. I suspected, I said, moving to the window, gazing out over the city I had rebuilt my life in. But you confirmed everything yourselves. Logan, did you honestly expect me to believe your consulting empire just appeared out of thin air? No clients, no product, yet somehow endlessly profitable. I asked. Matthew was sobbing now, but not with grief. His tears burned with fury at Logan. You told me it was just extra cash to get us started. You never said anything about federal crimes. Matthew, listen, Logan stammered. No. Matthew cut him off, then turned toward me, voice shaking. Claire, I swear I didn't know about the crimes. I thought it was just regular betrayal. Regular betrayal, I repeated slowly, letting the words hang. Strange how that sounds when you say it out loud. Harrison leaned forward, trying to reel in control. Miss Cross, what is it you want? I set my leather case on the table, unlatched it, and spoke clearly. I want justice. Logan will surrender himself to the FBI today. Matthew will cooperate with the investigation. Both of you will honor the prenuptial agreement. That's the deal. Logan bolted upright. That's blackmail. No, I said evenly. Blackmail is when you invent crimes to threaten someone. This is accountability. Matthew looked at Logan with wide, panicked eyes. How many years for something like this? For fraud at this level? I answered. 15 to 20. For you, Matthew, if you cooperate, 3, maybe 5. Logan's voice broke into pleading. Claire, wait. I can bring down bigger fish. I know people, I can cut deals with the Bureau. Just give me a chance. By all means, share what you know, I said, snapping the briefcase closed. But it won't change the fact you tried to destroy me while running criminal schemes. Matthew sobbed openly. Claire, I'm sorry. I really am. I gave him a long, steady look. No, Matthew. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. That's different. Harrison tried one last play. Surely, Ms. Cross, there's a compromise we can reach. There is, I said. Logan turns himself in today. Matthew cooperates. And the 2 of you disappear from my life forever. Otherwise, I drop the entire case file in the Bureau's lap. Logan's voice cracked. Claire, we were comrades once. Doesn't that count for anything? It did, I said. Until you chose betrayal over loyalty and dragged my husband into crimes on top of it. The office door opened. My assistant stepped in. Colonel Cross, the agents have arrived. Panic surged in their eyes. Why, you called them? Matthew whispered. I shook my head with a thin smile. No. They're here because Logan tried to move $2.3 million offshore last night. The Bureau flagged it instantly. Logan's body trembled. How could you possibly? I've had access to your company's accounts for 6 months. Every international transfer pinged my alerts. The door swung wider and 2 federal agents entered, badges flashing. Logan Reed, Matthew Cross. One agent said, You're under arrest for fraud, laundering, and tax evasion. As the cuffs locked around their wrists, Matthew turned to me, his face pale with disbelief. You planned this all along. No, I answered calmly. I just prepared for every possibility. You chose the worst one. The agents led them out, Logan spitting one last protest. Claire, you can't do this to us. But I was already facing the window, the skyline stretching before me. Their lesson had only begun. 6 months later I stood in the same office, but the view felt different. Not because the skyscrapers had changed, but because I had. I'd weathered betrayal and war of a different kind, and I had come out not just whole but stronger. Logan was sentenced to 18 years. The court came down hardest on him after learning how he used Matthew as a shield, manipulating him into signing fraudulent documents. At sentencing, he tried to plead poverty, desperation, even claimed he wasn't himself. The judge, a veteran in finance law, cut him down with words that carried more weight than the gavel. "Mr. Reed, you exploited trust as a weapon. Your crimes are not desperation but deliberate predation." Matthew received 4 years, with parole possible in 2, for testifying against Logan and aiding the investigation. His cooperation unraveled a corruption network stretching across 3 states and a dozen officials. In court, he made a statement that caught me off guard. His voice shook as he said, "I betrayed my wife, and that choice was mine. Logan convinced me she was weak, useless, and we deserved better. He made me believe every signature was harmless. But betrayal was my choice, and I live with it." Watching him testify, I felt a conflicted twist in my chest. Satisfaction, yes, but also the recognition that while Logan exploited him, Matthew still chose to wound me first. The real transformation, though, was mine. For 2 years I'd lived as a shadow, faking weakness, feigning defeat. And in doing so, I discovered something I hadn't even realized during my military years. The kind of patience and discipline that could outlast any enemy. "Colonel Cross," my assistant Sarah said as she stepped into the office, a folder tucked under her arm. "The federal paperwork is finalized. They've confirmed you'll receive 80% of the recovered funds. The $2.3 million Logan tried to sneak into the Cayman Islands is back in government hands, and you've been awarded a substantial bounty for exposing the entire network." She paused before continuing. "And the other matter you asked me to check? Matthew signed a full waiver relinquishing any future claim to your assets. He also agreed to the permanent restraining order. One more thing," she hesitated. "He left you a letter." Months earlier, Matthew's attorney had made a last-ditch attempt to paint me as manipulative, insisting I owed compensation for his emotional distress. That strategy crumbled when the judge heard the recordings. 2 years of Matthew and Logan plotting to strip me bare and laugh about it. So I placed Sarah's envelope aside. I knew what it contained. Apologies. Justifications. Pleas. I had 3 others already, each more desperate than the last. The phone rang. Amanda's name lit up the screen. Matthew's sister, now an FBI agent. "Claire," she said, "I wanted to thank you again. Your case cracked open an operation that had run for nearly 5 years. 3 shell firms, fake contracts, over 15 million stolen. It even exposed corruption in state offices." "I was glad to help," I told her. She hesitated. "About Matthew. I know he betrayed you, but I need to say this. The investigation showed he didn't fully grasp the depth of Logan's scheme. Logan used him as a pawn just like he used you, only in a different way. He was right. The files made that clear. Matthew signed papers believing they were part of legitimate business deals. But that didn't erase the fact that he chose to cheat, belittle me, and conspire to rob me. Logan's manipulation explained the crimes, but not the betrayal." "Amanda," I said evenly, "I don't carry grudges. But his choices were his own." She sighed. "He asked me to tell you he's sorry. Not just for being caught, for what he did to you as a person. He knows he lost more than money. He lost the chance to know who you really are." After we hung up, I opened Matthew's letter. It was shorter than the others. "Claire, I don't expect forgiveness. I only want you to know I've finally learned the difference between regretting the consequences and regretting the actions themselves. During the investigation, I saw who you really are, not just successful but disciplined, patient, and principled. You deserved a partner worthy of that. I wasn't that person. I'm sorry." I folded it and tucked it away with the others. Not with anger. With acceptance. Some bridges burn so completely that all they can do is light the way forward. Logan was different. He never once showed remorse. His courtroom speeches reeked of self-pity, his prison letters full of excuses and conspiracy theories. One had arrived months ago. "Claire, you ruined my life. It was just business. You made it personal. As if betrayal, theft, and fraud were everyday transactions." 8 months after the hearing, I wake each morning to the Pacific horizon from my new home in Monterey. I didn't buy it to impress anyone but to finally live with peace. I had sold my company for $120 million, not because I needed the cash but because I wanted to build something new. The Cross Foundation for Marital Justice became that mission. We've already helped more than 400 clients gather the evidence they need to defend themselves from betrayal, supplying investigators, financial experts, and therapists who specialize in the scars of deception. We give people tools to fight back before it's too late. One of the stories that struck me most was Patricia, a 52-year-old whose husband was funneling assets into secret accounts for his mistress. With our support, she not only stopped the transfers but uncovered evidence of multiple affairs. "Claire," she told me, "you didn't just save my money. You gave me my dignity back." Those moments remind me that this was never just about revenge. It was about shining a light on predators who weaponize intimacy. My life now is stripped of performance. I drive the Tesla I always wanted. I wear clothes because I like them, not because they fit a disguise. And I only surround myself with people who live their values, not just speak them. The greatest lesson wasn't about revenge or even justice. It was about restraint. For 2 years I let them believe I was defeated. They mistook my patience for weakness, my silence for ignorance, my kindness for gullibility. Their fatal error was confusing calm with passivity. Now when younger veterans or entrepreneurs ask for advice, I tell them, never underestimate the quiet ones. Silence isn't ignorance. Patience isn't weakness. Generosity isn't stupidity. The best revenge I found wasn't watching my traitors fall. It was realizing that I had become stronger than even I knew. If this story resonates with you, subscribe to Twist and Retribution for more tales where betrayal backfires and strength rises from the ashes. Last I heard, Logan was in a federal prison in Texas, shelving books for $2 an hour while spinning tales of conspiracy to anyone who'd listen. Matthew, paroled 2 months ago, lives with his parents in a small Oregon town, clerking at a department store and volunteering at a women's shelter. Maybe that's his way of making amends. As for me, I finally lived the life I was meant to. It took betrayal and 2 years of performance to strip me down to my core. And there I found a truth stronger than steel. The best revenge is not destruction. It's becoming untouchable.